Hello everyone, welcome to Analog IAS Current Affairs Analysis for 9th December 2019. These are the articles that we'll be dealing today. The first article for the day is titled Constitutional Justice is Non-Negotiable, and this is taken from the Hindu. This is in the context of the encounters of accused in the Disha rape case in Hyderabad. In this context, we are trying to understand why rule of law is indispensable for a perfect functioning of a society and what is the importance of constitutionalism. This is very important from the perspective of GS2 paper and also of the understanding of justice delivery in the Indian context. Now, what do you mean by constitutionalism? Constitutionalism basically means that government can and should be legally limited in its powers. That is the basis of its authority, and its legitimacy depends on observing these limitations. Unlike in the present case, there are a lot of instances where the victims do not get enough media attention and media trail. As a result, we see there is a apathy from the judicial system. This brings us to the point that our judicial system and criminal justice delivery system is at best episodic but not systemic. There is a systemic lapse in the delivery of justice in India. We have to address this point immediately. The larger picture in the mind that we have to keep while answering these kind of questions is that the course of justice cannot be determined by the grief and grieving of victims' families. What is justice? Justice in this case is to find a fine balance between supporting the grieving families yet not compromising on the criminal investigation by following a due process of law and ensuring such instances are not repeated and such extreme acts of violence do not repeat in the future. Have we achieved that? That is the question that this article writer is posing. Unfortunately, the answer is no, we did not do that. The most significant achievement of the outburst after the Nirbhaya incident in 2012 is the outcomes proposed by Justice J.S. Verma committee and the subsequent amendments in the law. Where we have failed is proper enforcement of those laws. For example, Supreme Court in the Salva Judum case said that modern constitutionalism posits that no wielder of power should be allowed to claim the right to perpetrate state's violence against anyone. To quote my point on why rule of law is very important, we have seen a case of a report where Justice Vijay Agarwal carried out a judicial probe and submitted a report on Chhattisgarh police killing 17 persons in cold blood in a staged gunfight at Sarkeguda in Bijapur district on June 28, 2012. This brings us to the point as to why no single state power can take away the rights of citizens and perpetrate violence. I know it will be an unfair comparison to do for the police, but it is to ensure that rule of law is very important that I am quoting this example. The problem is not lack of law. After the Justice Verma committee recommendations and the subsequent criminal amendment acts, we have very stringent punishments ranging from death penalty to at least life imprisonment and up to 20 years of punishment, and also death sentences even in the case of as a possible punishment for rape of a girl under 12 years. The minimum punishment is 20 years in jail. There is another new section which was inserted in the Indian Penal Code to specifically deal with the rape on a girl below 16 years. The provision made the offence punishable with minimum imprisonment of 20 years, which may extend to imprisonment for life. The minimum jail term for rape, which was remained unchanged since the introduction of the Indian Penal Code in 1860, was increased from 7 to 10 years. So all this say that the problem is not with the law itself, it is with the implementation. At present, there is no law in force that empowers the police to kill. The plea of self-defense cannot be used to rationalize a targeted, premeditated killing of suspects in custody. Some sections of the society even question whether the police can take similar steps when a politician's son or a politician's kin and kith are involved. Similarly, in the case of Unnova, where the rape victim was set ablaze, there is no action on their part. Can we follow this course of vigilante justice from the police side whenever there is a similar incident that is happening? Prima facie, the role of police is to ensure in the first place that these kind of rape incidents are not happening on a day-to-day basis. The actual role of enforcing justice is with the judiciary. So both police and judicial reforms must happen hand in hand. The author sums up the need of the hour in a beautiful way by saying that the response must be systemic but not episodic. Rule of law must prevail. That is the bottom line of this article. In this context, try to answer this question. What is rule of law? Examine the need to enforce rule of law for justice delivery. The second article for the day is titled An Asian Engine Driven by India and China. This is taken from the Hindu. The central argument of this article is the need for a peaceful and a stable Asia's growth for global prosperity. So what are the challenges that the world is facing at this present moment? The first one is the retreat of multilateralism. International organizations that were set up after the Second World War are seeing a threat because many countries are losing trust in the efficacy of their functioning. Secondly, there is a growing threat of protectionism that is acting against global trade, as seen in the case of US-China trade war, which has a cascading effect on various economies. The same trend is being repeated in many countries. Thirdly, there is a problem of slow growth across the world. The world population is continuously increasing. There is a demand for more and more resources, yet we are not producing sufficiently because of various reasons like protectionism and lack of connectivity and trust between various countries at multi-level multinational organizations. Fourthly, geopolitics is influencing trade rather than economic reasons. This is seen especially in the case of China's aggressive pursuit of the One Belt One Road initiative. Next, there is this need for skill training because in the age of automation, there is a fear that many jobs will be lost. So this requires new competencies and there is a need for people to people engagement more than ever in this present age. In order to contain all these challenges, this article emphasizes on the role that India and China can play to revive the losing trust in global institutions like World Trade Organization. There are certain avenues where India and China is working together. For example, if you take the India-China +1 framework, India, China and Afghanistan are joining together to train Afghan diplomats under the present framework. There is also a potential to work together on Asian infrastructure as well. Another area where India and China can work together is meeting the needs of the global energy market, which is more favorable to consumers right now. The 21st century is considered an Asian century because of the potential it holds. So in this context, we have to remember what our Prime Minister Modi said in Raisina Dialogue in 2017. He said that there is enough room for all Asian countries to prosper together and that the Asia of rivalry will hold us all back. It is the Asia of cooperation that will shape this century. You can use this quotation directly in your answers. In this context, try to answer this question. Examine the need for cooperation between India and China for global prosperity. what are the challenges, what are the issues, and how we can solve it. That should be the content of the answer. The next article for the day is titled Demonizing the Legal System Won't Help. This is taken from the Hindu, and this can be seen as a continuation from our first article, The Constitutional Justice is Non-Negotiable. This article writer argues that the problem of justice delivery is not just with the police or with the judiciary. There are many proponents who say that we need more stronger laws, but that is just outburst of emotion rather than fact, because after Justice J.S. Verma committee recommendations were accepted and subsequent amendments were made in the law regarding rape cases, the law is already strong enough to protect the women. The problem is with the enforcement. If at all there is a need to make new laws, that is to address the need for making the laws which protect the rights of human beings gender neutral. There are rights of men who are accused of rape falsely, there is no recourse for them. There is this aspect of sexual violence faced by transgenders, there is no proper corrective framework to address their problems. So legislative reforms should be focused on these areas. What is needed right now is to reduce the time taken for resolving the existing cases. That is the most important need of the hour. To lay down some facts, the article quotes certain figures. The problem is not with charge sheeting. It is as high as 86.6% in the cases of rapes. And most of the rapes fall in two categories. There are a large amount of cases where consenting couples are criminalized by the women's family, where that is over 40% of the cases in Delhi, just to take an example. And second category falls in the breach of promise to marry, which is over 25%. So the police are in fix to handle these kind of cases because there is a societal implication as well. Secondly, the problem is with speedy delivery of justice. There are no official statistics on the speed of the cases, but anecdotal evidences, like in the case of Nirbhaya victims not getting justice because the accused are still to receive punishment. This causes a lot of emotional outburst amongst proponents of this vigilante kind of justice. So this is the area we have to focus upon. We have to ensure that the accused gets all pre-trial legal courses on time, as well as also ensure that due process of law takes its course as soon as possible and justice delivery is ensured by following due process of law. That is the gist of this article. The last article for the day is taken from the Live Mint and it is titled India is in the second space age with one hand tied at the back. This is regarding the problems of regulatory environment as far as space is concerned in India. This particular article is a good way to begin an essay. Basically, this article is about the relevance of space business today and how it can impact the society. To bring this point into a context, the author uses the historical examples of little innovations like the ecosystem that rose to support after the invention of joint stock company by Dutch and British East India companies to take massive risk and how they impacted the British and Dutch societies is a case to the point. So the author says that even small legal innovations will have a profound impact on history. Many countries like Luxembourg, US, New Zealand and even China are creating enabling environment for private entrepreneurs in the space sector to flourish. The age of second space age has already arrived, where the dominating players shall be the private entrepreneurs. This is already seen in the case of SpaceX, Tesla's innovation with a relaunchable vehicle. So the common lesson that we can learn is, if conditions that allow private entrepreneurs to take big risks are allowed or encouraged in a country, there is prosperity. To be fair to ISRO, it has been one of the most efficient public sector entities India has ever witnessed. India has the glory of producing low cost technologies at a globally competent level. In the 21st century, there are two different trends that are emerging with respect to space activity. One is the need for quick launching of rockets for ensuring defense capabilities are not compromised, and the second one is the commercial activity of launching constellation of nano and cube satellites. These rockets are to be launched at short notice and very frequently, which calls for capacity building in space activity. Rocket building and testing rocket is a hazardous business because it involves procuring, storing, handling high explosives, testing high energy flying objects, which scares politicians and bureaucrats to play it safe. However, with the changing scenario globally and with projections that the new space age will create 1 trillion economy, India should strive to gain certain market access for that 1 trillion. If India does not ensure that they create an enabling policy environment for private entrepreneurs, those entrepreneurs will eventually leave to countries like Luxembourg and Singapore, who are creating these enabling environments and encouraging space activity. If India wants to create new jobs, there is a need for a new space policy which will reimagine its role for private entrepreneurs. That is the need of the hour. That's it for the day. Thank you.